Alright folks, Rick Waller came back again. This time we're looking at Thundercats Classics Lionel. Okay, I know. When I did those Tiger Thundercats Classics review, I said I probably wouldn't be picking this up. But I was in T K Maxx, I saw the price on it, I couldn't resist it. Let's have a look at the figure in packaging, showcasing the figure within. Name at the bottom, claims it has 18 points of articulation, we'll see about that. Artwork on the side, top of the back. Pictures of the figure within. Pictures of the figures available in the line, or that were available in the line when it was still going. Still pick them up at certain shops, as I say, like T K Maxx. Or they were cheap at Home Bargains and other such retail stores. Looks good, but we didn't come to look at the packaging. We came to look at the figure within. I've already had a look at this figure before, a couple of times. So I already know what we're getting. I've already undone all the articulation and all the ties on it. Which I'm sure if you've been watching my videos for a while now, you know how much those ties really annoy me. There's Lionel still in packaging but out of the main box. Let's pop him out of here. Oops, not popped that on since last time. There we go. And there we have Lionel. I'll tell you what, first thing that's noticeable about the figure to me, you can't see it so much from that angle, but from here you can. The unpainted joints. Now I'm sure some people will say, oh, they don't matter, no one cares about that. Well, I do. And I know a load more collectors out there really do. And that orange in the blue boots really upset a lot of collectors. I don't like it. It really seems a bugbear to me as well. So I know exactly where they're coming from. Why, when you're making something for a collector, would you put a flaw like that into it? Because that's what it is. It's a flaw. It doesn't look right. And if you're a collector who wants to display them on their shelf and you've got something that doesn't look right, they're not gonna want it. Why do you think the line failed? Who wants a classics figure that doesn't look right? But enough of a rant. Let's look at the figure itself. It's got almost shiny gloss to it, which makes it look extra plasticky, which I don't think I like, which again is a problem with the figure. And it doesn't make me sad that I picked it up, because I picked it up cheap and I like the figure. I'm glad I picked it up, don't get me wrong, but it's well flawed. It is a well flawed figure. The ankles don't look right, the wrists don't look right, and the whole thing, there's sort of a sheen of falseness to it, and I don't like that. A couple of scuffs of paint as well, on the boot, on the belt. I actually really like the belt though. It's not actual part of the sculpt, it comes off, it comes away, it does not come off. But will slot back in nice and easily. Unlike the aforementioned Tiger figure, which I found barrel chested, this Lionel looks lean, mean and ready to fight evil. So that's a good thing. Face sculpt, slightly bland, but not bad. Much better than the screaming face that we got on the 6-inch version, which I just won't pick up because of that face. I don't want the 6-inch Classics Lionel because it's screaming. I want a normal faced Lionel. It's not too much to ask. The articulation on it, head moves up and down, turns left and right. Ball jointed shoulders that can go forward, backwards, up and down. Bicep cut. Single jointed elbow. Both a wrist and the hand are on ball joints so they can turn nicely. There's a wrist articulation which lets you go forwards, backwards with it. The whole body's on a rocker. There's chest articulation. The waist will turn. Got ball jointed thighs, or hips rather. Thigh cut, double jointed knees, boot cut, ankle pivot, and an ankle joint. So loads of articulation there, which is really nice. Can get a load of good poses with him. No holes on the soles though, so you can't put him on a figure stand, which is a great shame. You don't get a figure stand with it, so it's not that much of an issue, but it'd been nice if we'd have been able to actually pose him on a figure stand. You can't get any real actiony poses like a big kick, because he just topples over. But what do you expect? As you can see, it comes with the open hand as standard and the very cool looking claw shield. It's really nice to actually get a claw shield in the right colours. Though I've just noticed he's got 4 fingers and a thumb on this hand and only 3 fingers and a thumb on the claw shield. That's a detail I've only just noticed is a little off. But yeah, little niggle. Something that I should have noticed earlier but didn't. The little sword will fit gently, will balance in this hand. Slightly. But of course it's not meant to go in this hand. The little sword of omens does, however, slot into the claw shield nicely, which is a really nice touch and makes for a really nice display option. But I'm just putting off changing the hands because of that wrist articulation, which I really love. I love that wrist articulation. So the fact that I'm complaining about it is slightly hypocritical, because I really do like that articulation. But it does make it harder to swap the wrists. Why that hand comes as standard, I don't know. You'd want the gripping hand, I would have thought. That's what most people will be using to display it, I'm sure. Claw shield actually fits onto here, so it'll pop onto his leg. That does keep popping off, however. And if you're moving the articulation in his leg about a lot, you'll find it keeps popping off a hell of a lot, which is a slight problem. But it's not that bad. Don't get me wrong, it's really nice to have it so it can clip onto his wrist, onto his thigh. And I'd much rather it be able to clip onto his thigh than have to complain, than it not do. Even if I'm complaining about this popping off all the time. Now here's the problem with it. I said with the Tigra figure I didn't want to embarrass myself by trying that on camera. I have done with Lino, and it's not gone too badly. You can actually position the wrist on that ball joint so it can either go forwards in like that, or if you let it twist round, if we can get it to twist round, there we go. It can go up and down, which is nice to be able to do either. Let's pop the gripping hand on as well. This is the trickiest one to get on. They're much easier than they were on Tigra. But just because they're much easier does not make them easy. There we go. Again, depending how you want to position it, you can either have it going upwards and downwards. or inwards and outwards. Again, if you pull it too far, it does pop off, which is annoying, especially as that means I have to pop it back on screen. There we go. Then we get the big old Sword of Omens, the other accessory in this set. Comes out of packaging ever so slightly warped because of how it's put in there, but not too bad. And fits nicely in his hand. Looks very cool in his hand. And as I say, because of that articulation, you can get some cool poses. Wrist will keep popping off. Slightly easier to put back on does mean it's also slightly easier to pop off. Now let's go for some cool two-handed poses, such as that one. As close as we can get to the Sword of Omens, give me sight beyond sight. If you could stand up, there we go. Not quite perfect, but it does the job, it's not bad. And if we want to get him in a cool Thundercats Ho pose, let's pop the wrist on the other way for that. Alternatively, pop it back on the same way. I have to twist it while it's on. There we go. We can get him holding the sword directly overhead in that iconic Thundercats Ho pose. Pop the claw shield back around his leg. As I say, it doesn't often like to stay there, but you can get in a cool position. It looks awesome. We've got a nice Thundercats Ho pose. Only accessory you can't carry with him at all times is the other gripping hand. I suppose you can pop it in there, but it does look weird. Gives you somewhere nice to pose it though, if you're not using it for storage. If you think that blue part destroys the look of the figure when he's not wearing the claw shield on his thigh, you can pop that off there. Claw shield actually fits on really easily onto his wrist. And when you haven't got the sword in there, it fits really well into that muscle. So it actually is well designed, really well designed that. You can get a really nice Thundercats Ho pose. I actually like this figure a lot. Very flawed, but I'm really glad I picked it up. And I think it looks really cool. Especially with that wrist articulation. The fact they did away with that wrist articulation, the fact they gave him that screaming face, is why I will never pick up the 6-inch version. But to me, you don't need a 6-inch version. This 8-inch version has nailed it. Or has nailed it as best it can. I like it a lot. Would highly recommend picking it up. If you're a fan of the old cartoon, it's worth having. Even with its many, many flaws. I can understand why the toy line didn't take off, and I can understand why a lot of collectors wouldn't want this figure. But I like it. Nothing more to be said than that. And as such, see you.